Yeah. So thank you all for joining us today at one of our events that we will be hosting here. Now, ultimately, we love to host these events here at Quest. The main reason why is as we kind of go through these type of motions, we want to make sure people are getting enough education out there, not just in real estate in general, but how they can use their retirement accounts to purchase assets. This could be notes or fix and flips and rentals and syndications and multifamily deals. But today, we're really going to be focusing on how we can take 10 individual properties and moving forward. So I always like to talk briefly, about Quest. What is a self-directed IRA? And thank you for joining us. We are one of the largest self-directed IRA companies in the U.S. We are definitely the largest in Texas. We have a little over 20,000 active clients. We have somewhere right around the $2 billion mark in assets under management and literally over $400 million in undirected cash. What that means for you guys out there is many of our clients set up accounts. They have moved in cash and they are looking for their next deal. So it's very important whether you're looking to be a borrower or looking to be a lender. There's plenty of money out there. I always like to give a quick disclaimer. Quest, we are only here for educational purposes. I can't give you any investment advice or structuring advice or tell you if a deal is good or bad, right? But I can walk you through and tell you, like, hey, this is how we can do these type of investments inside a self-directed IRA. Now, we host all sorts of events, and what we'd like to do is try to get back to doing things in person. So we're kind of doing a test run with some of these in-person events, and we call them the COVID safe return events. But we have one that goes the first Tuesday in Houston, the second Tuesday in Austin, and the third Tuesday in Dallas. These 3 social events are completely free to everyone, but you do have to register. Do the whole COVID stuff. I know it's dying down a lot, but the banking regulations require us to have a certain amount of registered, people there. So make sure you register. They are 100% free to you. We'll provide food and drinks to everyone that attends. So we always have all sorts of other classes, from virtual happy hours, YouTube channels, and mainly our self-directed IRA Saturday class. If you guys have not attended that event, right, make sure you guys do. It is, once again, completely free. Last thing I want to talk about before we dive into today's speaker is going to be our QuestCon event coming up, which will be forecasting what should be happening in the real estate area in 2022. Now, if you're a current Quest client, send me an email. I'll get you a free ticket to it. If you're not one, send me an email. The tickets are $50 a piece, so pretty cheap, right? And what we're doing is we're bringing in real estate experts from across the U.S. They're going to be talking about things from entity structures, LLCs and C Corps, S Corps, trusts, to doing notes, wholesaling property, single-family properties, multifamily, Airbnb, everything that you can imagine. So it's a 100%, it's a 2-day event that will go on December 3rd and 4th, $50 for a ticket if you would like to join. Now, with all of that being said, guys, I want to talk a little bit about the class that's going on today. And we brought in a different speaker that we actually haven't had speak with us before. And this is mainly because of the topic that he'll be going over. And I love this area because me as a real estate investor, I'm on my 3rd property. And I want to get to that 10 property area. And I noticed there's a big difference between your first house and your 10th house. Now, how do we get to this area? How do we be able to develop and get more properties underneath our belt, whether it's in an IRA, which avoids all the taxes, or outside of an IRA? So we want to bring in a special guest speaker today. And William, are you there with me?
I'm here, Derek.
Awesome. So I'm going to kind of let you take it away from here. For those of you out there, leverage the chat box down below. I'll be able to answer your questions. I'll be moderating the whole time, and me and William will be kind of doing a little banters back and forth if you guys have any questions. But William, the stage is all yours.
Okay, Derek, thanks so much. I really appreciate you and Haley inviting me on today. I'm excited to be here with your person. So, well, I'm going to get started because, listen, I've got a whole lot of information to cover today and a short time to do it. I tried to shorten this thing up as much as I could to tell you guys how you can buy one house a month and create an incredible income and lifestyle. So let's get rolling. Let's see. All right, here we go. So we're going to talk about the 12 houses to freedom today and the math behind $600,000 a year. I want to tell you guys that after this training, as a follow-up, you can visit our website at sub2deals.com. You can subscribe to us on YouTube channel. We put out a lot of free training. And then if you're interested in some continuing education and coaching, you can visit our website at sub2dealscoach.com. So that's all the promotion you're going to get out of me. Now we're going to talk about how to buy some houses.
Hey, William,
Yep.
William, real fast. Start the slideshow.
Okay.
It's showing like the one PowerPoint view where you see all the stuff.
I just did that to speed it up because it doesn't have any everything. That way I can just move through it really quickly.
Sounds good.
Yeah, if that's okay with you, we'll
absolutely take it away.
It won't be quite as pretty, but it'll be just as effective. So what if I told you that you could make over $300,000 in the next 12 months just by buying one house a month? And within 36 months, you would be making over $600,000 a year, still buying only one house a month. Now, I know that blows away all the theory that you get from other teachers about how, you got to be hustling and grinding all the time and buy a ton of houses. But you really can have a good lifestyle, have time for your family, time to do the things you want to do, and buy one house a month. So today we're going to cover a little bit about what is subject to. Can't go super in depth on that, but I am going to explain to you what it is. What is seller financing? And why these two strategies combined let you triple your profits on every single deal that you do, even no equity deals. Okay. And I know no equity deals aren't as prevalent in the market today, but there still are some out there. There are still some houses that are upside down, and we'll give you a couple of examples of that. What's the right house avatar? We have a specific type of house that we're looking for. We'll give you some deal examples and explain how it works by the numbers. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of information about who I am, but let me give you just a little bit of background so you'll know who you're dealing with. I quit school in the 9th grade, so I'm not, a super highly, educated type person. I'm the avatar for the guy that if I can do it, anyone can do it. I spent 20 years in the restaurant industry and bought a Carlton Sheets course in July of 1999. And I did something a lot of people don't do. I actually took the cellophane off of it, read it, and did what he said. And taking, imperfect action makes the difference. You don't have to know everything to go out there and get some stuff done. So I bought houses for about 10 years. Then I moved to Belize in 2010, and I bought remotely for the next several years. We've bought over 500 properties subject to, and probably around in the 600, 650 numbers so far, just overall, because we do some fix and flips or did some in the past. We don't really do that stuff anymore. We focus now more on just subject to. So how does the 12 houses to freedom work? Well, it's a combination of subject to and seller financing. So for those of you who don't know, what is subject to? When you buy a property subject to, you're purchasing it subject to the existing financing. And all that means is any loans or debts or encumbrances that are already on the property are going to stay there. And you're not going to formally assume any of them. Technically, the former owner is still responsible for that underlying debt. Okay. You're just going to take the little payment booklet and start making the payments in the place of the owner. I like to say that you own the property, but the seller still owns the loan. And that's one of the things that make buying subject to so attractive in conjunction with your IRAs, is because the IRA doesn't have to take on any debt. So now, the first thing that I asked myself when I got started investing and heard about subject to was, who in the world would do that? Who in the world would agree to stay on the debt and deed the house to me? Well, surprisingly, there are a lot of people that will. People getting a divorce, a job transfer, death in the family, can't afford the house without two incomes, tired landlords. That's been a big source of properties for me and my students through the COVID thing, when people aren't paying. Job loss and can't pay, bought another home and need to sell. Really, there's many reasons that a person would do subject to, as there are with any other type of deal. They're motivated sellers, and if you present subject to, a lot of times they will be okay with that. Okay, so you understand what subject to is. You bought the house, now you have to sell it. And seller financing that's what we like to do. So what is seller financing? Well, when you seller finance a property for a buyer, you're really just being the bank. You sell the house to the buyer, collect a down payment, create a note for the amount that your buyer still owes you, and your buyer will make monthly payments to you until they either pay the house off, sell it to someone else, or refinance somewhere down the road. So what is seller financing? Well, it may be a lot of different names depending on what state you're in. It could be a contract for deed. A lease option is considered a form of seller financing. It may be an agreement for deed, an all-inclusive trust deed, a bond for deed, a wraparound mortgage. I think you guys in Texas do wraps, and you've got some legislation coming down pretty soon that's going to change the way you do some of those things. But it's simply being the bank for your buyer, okay? So if you want to triple your profit from every deal that you do, using seller financing is a great way to do it, and creative financing is really the key. Let me give you an example of a deal a student brought to us recently. He said, William, he said, I found a seller in Florida that'll sell me their house for $140,000. That's the loan balance. They're an older couple. They've recently retired. They bought a new home somewhere else, and they just want to move. Now, this house needs just a little bit of updating, really. It wasn't really repairs. It needed some work in the kitchen and some new carpet. It was really minor. It was about $10,000. Now, after the little bit of work's done, the house will be worth around $180,000. He said, I'm torn with what to do here. I can put 10 into it. I'll be in it for $150,000. I can sell it for $180,000. After I have expenses or costs, depending on whether I use a realtor or not, I'll probably profit somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000. And I said, well, listen, why don't you consider putting that $10,000 in it and then selling it on a note with seller financing? If your buyer only stays in 3 years, these are what the numbers will look like. We'll sell the house for a premium. We'll probably mark it up to around $190,000, $195,000. Probably collect somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 down. You'll get your 10 back, put 10 in your pocket. You'll get $400 to $500 a month in cash flow, and then the back end, which would give you a $72,000 profit. So in those two scenarios, which one would you take? Exactly. I mean, I can't imagine anybody would say no to the second one. You get your cash investment back almost immediately, put $10,000 in your pocket up front, and make the rest over time. So what a deal to put in your IRA and make that profit tax free, right? So when you're the bank, remember that you make money 4 different ways. The spread and the down payment from your buyer between what you have in the property and the difference in what they give you. The interest spread, most of the loans we're taking over today are in the 3% range. And most of our seller finance notes are in the 6%, 7% range. So you make money like the bank in that respect. The difference between your buy price and your sell price, most of the time, even if we pay full market value for a house, we'll mark that up around 8%. And we do that because the market's appreciating so rapidly. If I buy a house today worth $200,000, and I buy it for $195,000, which is zero equity, I can probably sell that house for $215,000 or so. And if I call 3 or 4 appraisers, one of them would certainly appraise. So it's not like we increase the price by 30 or 40%. It's nothing like that. And then, of course, the back end payday. You know, with the difference in the interest spreads, my buyer's principal pay down is much less and much slower than what I get on my lower interest rate loan. So you make profit in several different ways. So our perfect property avatar, in other words, what we're looking for in these deals is going to be a minimum 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. Smaller homes tend to sell slower. We want a house less than 10 years old because they have newer systems, less likely to have to replace air conditioning or anything electrical or plumbing. We like areas that have no HOAs. Is this always possible? No, but an HOA gives you, they have a lot of control over your real estate, and we don't really like that. We're looking for a house in good condition. We don't like to do rehabs. We'll do painting or replace carpet, but it's very minor stuff. We like to stay within 20 to 30 minutes of the metro area because a lot of people will drive to work. That's okay. And our absolute requirement is fixed rate, long-term financing in place. But that's the house that we're typically looking for. And here's a good example of one of the more recent ones that we've done. This lady called us. She had lost her husband in an accident. She wasn't from the area and wanted to relocate. She owed $192,000. The house was worth around $215,000, so very low equity deal. Our payment was $921. We sold this house for $229,000, got a $20,000 down payment. Our payments of $1,376 from our buyer gave us a $455 a month cash flow. And if our buyer refinances in 36 months, our total profit on a very low equity deal will be in around the $63,000 range. Here's a property that we got from something I like to target, which is what I call soon to expire MLS listings. These are listings that have been on the market for 3-4 months and haven't sold. And really, we're just looking for the people in there that really need to sell quickly. And we bought this house for $172,000. We gave $10,000 to the seller. Took over a $162,000 loan balance with payments of $880,000. We sold this house for $229,000. We got $20,000 down, cash flow of $500 a month. And again, we try to set our buyers up to be able to refinance us within 36 months. There are no balloons in our notes, but we work with a credit repair specialist and really try to get them to the point where they are eligible for refinance. We encourage them. We point out to them how much they'll save every month with their new loan. And of course, we have a licensed mortgage professional helping us on the sales side who also stays on top of that situation. But our profit over 36 months on this house should be around $70,000. Now, if you're looking at houses that have zero equity, and again, another target list that we like are VA loans. A lot of times people move into town, they buy a new house, they pay, in the end, their loan is for more than the value of the home because VA lets them roll closing costs and other things and doesn't require down payment. So it's not uncommon to see someone buy a $300,000 house and finance $310,000. That's pretty common. If you use things like PropStream, you can search for those and find them. But maybe they get orders, they have to transfer, they don't have any equity. They can't sell with a realtor. They can't come out of pocket the $20,000 it would take to sell. And a lot of times they're motivated to sell to us. So here was a situation where these were people that had bought on a VA loan. They had decided shortly after that they were getting a divorce. They actually never even moved into the house. It had been sitting vacant. And we took over the payments on this house. We bought it for it was $120,000 property that we got in new condition for $117,000 at a 4.25% interest rate loan. It was only 1 year in. Our payments were $577,000. We sold the house with seller financing for $135,000. Our buyer gave us $10,000 down. We financed the remaining $125,000 at 9% on a 40-year note. And our buyer's payments are $964. That gives us $387 a month in cash flow. And if our buyer refinances in 36 months, our payoff will be over $13,000, which on an absolute zero equity, low cost deal will be a $37,000 profit. So you can make money on lower cost houses as well. I want to talk to you guys today about how the 12 Houses to Freedom works. You know, a lot of times when I talk to people about this initially, they say, how in the world can that even be a possibility? So I want to spend a little more time on this. Now, when we get to the end of this, if any of you guys actually want the PDF on how this works so you can spend more time looking at the numbers, just send me an email or a Facebook Messenger. You can find me on Facebook, and I'll be glad to send you this PDF on how it works. So don't worry about taking too many notes or trying to keep up on this because there are a few numbers in how this thing works. Let's just use a specific house in this scenario. You buy a house worth $250,000 for $240,000 at 3.5% interest 1 year into a 30-year note. Now that's pretty common out there. Like I said, VA loans, anybody that's just bought and needs to sell, Maybe somebody bought a house with the idea of being a landlord. COVID hit, things didn't work out very well. They're not getting paid. Whoever that motivated seller may be, you're essentially buying a zero equity house. Now, your principal and interest payment is $1,077 a month. Your taxes and insurance are $300 a month. So your total payment on the house is $1,377, and the average rental rate in the neighborhood is around $1,600 a month. That's a pretty common scenario in a lot of markets around the country. So that's going to be our model house in this scenario. Okay, you sell this same house for $269 with $25,000 down. And before you think, there aren't a lot of people out there that have $25,000 to put down. Most conventional lenders today are requiring a pretty substantial down payment. There are a lot of self-employed people. A lot of the people that buy our houses are self-employed. They have something on their past credit history that won't allow them to get conventional financing, but they do have money to put down. So that's very common. We finance the remaining $244 at 7% for 40 years. Now, before you ask this question, can you finance someone for 40 years? Absolutely, you can. In fact, we're starting to see that mainstream now where banks are offering a 40-year note, but we've been doing this for the past 10 years. Your principal and interest for your buyer is $1,516 a month. The taxes and insurance are, you're just going to pass on what you're paying. You mirror your escrow payment to your buyer of $300 a month. So your buyer's payment is $1,816, and that gives you a $439 a month cash flow. In 36 months, if you set your buyer up to refinance at that time, you will owe $226,103 on your note. In 36 months, your buyer owes you $240,402. And this is going to give you a back-end payoff. In other words, when your buyer refinances and you go to closing, you'll collect a check for $14,300. Now, your profit centers on this deal are a $25,000 down payment. Now, we're going to assume that the people had no equity. They were desperate to move. They moved. They didn't require any money, and the house didn't require anything. If you want to make an allowance for cleaning the carpet, doing some landscaping, doing what have you, maybe you spend $5,000 getting that house, maybe a couple of grand to your seller for moving expenses, whatever the case may be, then of course you'd back your profit down, but you're still going to make money on the front end. You'll make $439 a month for 36 months. That's almost $16,000. You'll get your $14,300 back end. All in all, your profit on this no equity, super low equity deal is over $55,000. Okay, so that sets the stage for what we're looking at. Let's pretend that every house that we buy for the next 12 months works exactly like this. They're all in the same price range. They're all, have the same numbers. Now, the 36-month plan, year one, you'll collect $300,000 in down payments. 12 times 25,000. Okay, if you're the type of person that says, there's no way we can get in with nothing on these houses, that's okay. I'm going to have to spend $5,000 per house to do that. Okay, just back out $60,000. You'll only make $240,000 in down payments. You'll collect $34,000 in cash flow. That's 12 houses, one per month, each month. 12 on the first one you bought, 11 on the second one you bought, 10 on the third one you bought. You get the picture. 78 payments at $439. Your total gross profit year one is $334,242. Now, again, if you only collected 20 on the front end, back 60 out of that, you're at 274. Still better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick, I think. So let's go to year two. Okay. $300,000 in down payments. Again, a $300,000 profit there. $97,000 in cash flow. Your first 12 houses, each producing $347 a month, 12 times each. And now you got your second 12 houses in the mix. Okay. And so your total yearly profit in year two, almost $400,000. Year three, same scenario, except now you're up to 36 houses in the mix. You're making over $460,000. Year 4 is really when things start becoming interesting, because if you're setting your people up properly, they're going to start cashing you out. And when I say set them up properly, so many investors will take anybody that's got a down payment. And that's not how I think you should really set up your business. We set our business up to turn these houses. We want people that maybe they're having trouble right now. They can't qualify right now, but we want them to be able to in 36 months. And I'm here to tell you, you can have a pretty trashy credit score today, and in 3 years have one that'll qualify. The minimal qualifications for FHA loans and certain types of financing today, the credit score requirement's pretty low. We need to work with them to establish income that they can show on their taxes. It's a constant effort. And that, like I said, that involves bringing somebody in with credit repair, massaging the situation. You've got your mortgage broker on that's talking to them on a regular basis, because you paid them to process the deal, and now they're going to get paid again if these people come back in. So you need to work with them. It's not like a set it and forget it thing. You have to set things up for success. But starting in year 4, if you've done the work, they'll start cashing you out. The 37th month, we'll start seeing the first houses cashing out, and this will add $14,300 per month to your income as your back end deals do this. Now, year 4, $300,000 in down payments, because you're still buying your one house a month. And come on, guys, really, you can have a full-time job, you can have a family, and you can market and buy one house a month. When I got started, I was in the restaurant business. I worked 70 hours a week, and we picked up the pace and started buying 3 houses plus a month. And at the end of the first 12 months, we had bought 25 houses, and I left my job. You can buy a house a month. So your cash flow from your properties will be a total of $189,000. You're cashing out. This is going to give you an annual yearly income moving forward. If 12 cash you out, you buy 12 new ones every year of over $660,000. So, and this is an important thing to remember. We used a specific property avatar to do this. Is every house going to be worth $250? Absolutely not. Is every house going to owe $240? Absolutely not. Those things aren't going to be absolutes, but we had to use some type of avatar to get you to see what we're talking about. This is my model. It's what I've done for the last 11 years, and yours isn't going to look exactly like it. If you're in New York, your house isn't going to cost $250,000. If you're in California, it's not. In other places across the country, it won't. But the good news is, if the houses are more expensive, you're going to make more money. Your houses may be less expensive. You may not make $660,000 a year doing this. If you're in a market where your houses are $150,000, obviously your income's going to be less, but you're still going to make a lot of money. So that's how it works. That's how the 12 Houses to Freedom works. If you would like the PDF, I'll be glad to send that to you guys. Like I said in the beginning of this, I was in the restaurant industry. I made a decent living. It was enough to stay middle class. It was just over broke. But I wanted more for my family. Okay. And I ordered a Carlton Sheets course at 2 a.m. in the morning out of absolute desperation, because I knew if something didn't change, that I was stuck where I was, and I didn't want to be 55 or 60 or 70 years old, working 70 hours a week, never seeing my family, never taking a vacation, because I sold my vacations because I couldn't afford it. I needed the money, and I couldn't take the time off anyway. But I got that Carlton Sheets course. I tore the cellophane off of it. I opened it up. I started cold calling sellers with listings in the newspaper, which are the absolute worst. They're too cheap to pay a realtor, and they pay for an ad in the paper to sell their house. So, and eventually, after several times of being chewed out, cussed out, hung up on, and everything else, I bought my first one, then I bought my second one, then I bought my third one. So my question to you is, with this information, are you willing to take action to achieve financial freedom? Because the sad truth is, you can talk about it, but if you don't do something 5 years from now, 5 years will just have gone by, and you'll be in the same place or worse than you are today. So my encouragement to you today is just to go out and do some stuff, call some sellers, talk to some people, put out a bandit sign, run an ad on Facebook, do something to generate some leads to get out there and buy some houses, because one house a month, every month, will change your life, and it won't take long to do it. So I hope I didn't bore anybody. I'll share the links again where you can reach me or contact me. I'm easy to find. I'm on Facebook. You can go to my website, subscribe to us on YouTube, ton of free training, and I'll be glad to help anybody that I can. So I hope that was good information and helped some people today. I can't hear anything.
It would probably help if I unmuted myself.
There you go, man. There you are.
So I was saying we got a couple of questions from the audience. If it's okay, I'm going to just kind of fire them off. And if you're out there listening, this is your time to ask the experts, right? Now, obviously, we probably won't be able to get to every single question, William, but if people want to dive into more of this, they can go right to your website right there on the screen and schedule something with you and your team to work with you. Is that correct?
Absolutely. They can go to the website. We've got some products that'll help them if they're interested. We've got a bunch of free stuff. They can come to, like I said, I'm easy to find on Facebook. If they want to message me, I'll be glad to talk to them. They can email me. They can email me at william@sub2deals.com and ask for that PDF on the 12 Houses to Freedom. That'll break it down like we did here today. I know we had a lot of numbers and we moved through it fairly quickly, but I'll be glad to send them that PDF where they can look at it all they want. So absolutely, we'll help whoever.
Awesome. Now, I did have one question from one of our clients, and I answered it, but I was very brief in my answer.
Sure.
But one of the clients said, I thought Texas recently made sub-2s no longer available. And so I was going to play both sides of the fence on this one, but what are your thoughts on that? Because I know there was some bills and stuff that were talked about briefly in that area.
I talked to my students, actually it was yesterday, about Senate bill, and I can't remember the number, but it's known as the wraparound mortgage bill. And what it's done really is just made some things mandatory that should have been for a long time. It looks very restrictive on the face of it, but you have to provide disclosures to your buyers. And this is all for the buy side, for the sell side, not for the buy side. Subject twos are not illegal. You can take over debt anywhere. There has been no legislation, unless it's happened, I guess, in the last couple hours that I know of, that has prevented a sub-2. Now, Texas has gotten really strange about lease options several years ago, and then they started on the wraps a couple of years ago, and this new legislation goes into place January the 1st. But mainly, it's about protecting the buyer. The main things absolutely, and that's it removes the bad actors from the field. Most of it, I understand, came to pass because of one individual investor that just stuck it to a lot of buyers, put buyers in houses, didn't make underlying mortgage payments, and of course the buyer lost their house as a result of it. But yeah, there's nothing in that. You have to use a licensed mortgage broker to originate the loan, which we've been doing for 10 years. We did it because we were remote, and they were just like a VA for us, essentially, that we paid to get things done. But you need to do that. You need to make sure you give proper disclosure to your buyer that there is underlying financing. You need to give disclosure on the insurance and how it works. The language needs to be in their native language, which I know in Texas, you have a lot of Hispanics there. So, some people, they may know enough English to buy a house, but don't really understand the underlying stuff. So, that's a protection for them. It's really just protections for your buyer. And if you're doing everything on the up and up, you don't mind doing that anyway.
Absolutely. So I got a couple of questions here. Goodwin, Jeff, we're going to get to both your questions here in just a minute, but we're going to start with Goodwin. The one is, which states do you see more or less of these type of subject to properties available? Would you say?
We will buy houses in any states except Maryland, California, and New York. And that's just really because, things get crazy with government regulation and things like that. We look for more landlord friendly, contract for deed friendly states, which are typically found in the Midwest. Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, typically Midwestern states, but you can buy anywhere in the country. I've got students that do a lot of deals in Florida. North Carolina's great. Georgia, obviously. I spent my first 12 years and we bought hundreds of houses in Georgia. So typically it's going to be the Midwest. Super high cost states are harder. Does it work? Yeah, it will. But like I said, Midwest common sense stuff is really what you're looking for. Blue collar, median priced homes. We don't get into super expensive homes. Know a lot of people who do, but we like the stuff that we're pretty confident that we're going to be able to sell quickly.
One thing is, and you mentioned a little bit in your presentation, I'll just kind of touch on it as well, is I'm ex-military. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of the guys that were exactly in that situation you labeled.
That's right.
They're either active military or they just retired, mm-hmm. right? They used their VA loan to pick up a house. And I'll tell you what, now that you're getting closer to that spouse, they're not quite like what you thought they were. And a lot of them either get divorced mm-hmm. or they're moving away. Oh, now they finally think they settled. They get orders to go to a new post that they feel is a better post. And it happens non-stop.
Absolutely.
So some of those states you mentioned are actually big military states. Like when you said Kansas, Fort Riley's there.
Right.
So I just food for thought, guys.
Well, yeah, and it's easy. There is actually a way to search in PropStream for VA. And you can sort by equity and things like that. And VAs have always been an excellent source of leads just because they finance the full value plus. And they'll get orders just a moment's notice and have to be somewhere in 30 days. They can be a motivated seller.
So I got a unique question. We're going to kind of switch gears slightly. And this one came from Jeff. And it really comes down to a learning aspect. And he said, hey, he loved the presentation. It was great. But did you have any deals that maybe went south that you really learned from?
The only deals that I've ever had that went south were when I bought in the wrong areas, when I made a mistake and didn't know the area well enough. Maybe it was more of a rental area. We target, and I'll tell you, I had a couple actually, one in particular I remember that I bought in, it was probably a D- area, but I didn't know it at the time. I thought it was okay. It was a good deal. I bought it. It sat, we had people in it for a time or two. Of course, we never sold it. The sale never came to fruition because people typically don't buy in those neighborhoods. They'll say they're going to, but they never can or whatever. We finally took that house back and it sat vacant a little too long. It was completely stripped and we boarded it up and I made payments on that thing for 2 or 3 years before I finally sold it at a loss to another investor. The biggest, if you do your research, whether you're buying, if you're local, you should know. But when you're buying remotely, make sure you do your research. Make sure you know the areas that you're buying in, so you can get those things. So that's my biggest piece of advice on that.
I like that. I mean, I've made that mistake. I owned a rental property in a state that I wasn't in, and dude, there's just only so much you can do. Something goes wrong, and it makes things difficult. So. Yeah. A lot of people really liked the 4-year plan, how it was kind of amazing. Frank had posted his little comment up there, but he really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. What year and how long were you kind of doing these sub-2s and developing your business and stuff like that? Did you really realize that year 3, year 4 is when the real money comes in? I'm sure that probably didn't just happen overnight. That comes with experience.
Derek, I did things pretty much the same way for the first 12 years as an investor. I was a transaction engineer. I did generic marketing, whether it was ads in the newspaper, ads in the penny pincher, green sheet, little paper, whatever you want to call it, bandit signs. I did billboards for a while. You name it, we did it. And leads came in and we sorted them out according to what they were. If it was a wholesale deal, we wholesaled it. If it was something we wanted to keep, a sub-2, we did all rehabs, you name it, we did it. And in 2010, I had some major life changes, moved out of the country, didn't do anything for several months. And I said, you know what, it's time for me to start back up again. And I just literally took a yellow pad and liked it, didn't like it. And I made a list of all the things I did that I really liked, that worked, that made money. The ones that I liked that didn't make money, the ones that I hated that made money, and the ones that I hated that didn't do anything. And I said, you know what? When I buy subject to, when I sell with seller financing, it's the absolute best. And I said, I don't want to work too much. I'm basically, lazy. I can buy one house a month. And I started looking at the numbers, and it's just, you see all this stuff, especially if you hang out on Facebook a whole lot. You see, I got 20 deals in my pipeline. I got 3 rehabs going. I've never talked to a seller. I've never talked. And I'm like, come on, and it scares a lot of new people away. They're like, man, there's no way. I have to work a job. I have a family. And I said, you know what? You can buy one house a month, and it doesn't have to have a screaming ton of equity. If you buy it in the right place, it's the right house, the right financing setup. And I just put this together. And this was about 9 years ago. And we just follow that cookie cutter. That's it. I get a lead sometimes on something. I'm tempted to go another way because it looks like a really good deal. I mean, I'm like any other investor, and I have to force myself to listen. This is the path we follow. This is what I call easy money. COVID's made it a little bit more difficult with no foreclosures, because 2/3 of our business was foreclosures and people in trouble. Sure. Generating leads has been a little bit tougher in COVID. But this is a cookie cutter that works, and anybody can do it. You can buy a house a month. If you consistently market, reach out to sellers, have lead generation things coming in, there's no one that can't do this. We had a guy join our coaching group last month that's 82 years old. He's been buying real estate for years. He said, I want to learn about this subject too. I want to buy houses, without banks. And that's what really got me on the subject too, was when I got started, I just did what Carlton Sheets says. And amazingly, I bought houses, but my first few were on sandwich lease options and with bank loans. And what I discovered after I got started was that there was going to be a certain point where the banks cut me off. And I said, well, if they cut me off at 10 or 15 houses, that's not going to be enough to support the lifestyle that I eventually want to live. I've got to find another way. And that's when somebody introduced me to the subject too. And I said, well, this is nuts. And then I had a guy call me with a house that was only a year old. He was getting a divorce. He couldn't afford it. And I said, well, hey, if I can make the payments for you. And he said, can you do that? And I said, okay. And that was my first one. And since then, we bought the majority of our houses that way.
Bam. Well, William, I got your email up there. It's william@sub2deals.com, correct?
Yes.
Bam. And then obviously you can visit his website and stuff if you want to get in contact with him. Obviously, you're very active on the social media platform. So any last minute words before you kind of close everything out,
Yeah. Well, if anybody's got any questions, feel free to contact me. I'd be glad to help and get you going. I can't overemphasize just taking action. Don't feel like you have to know everything. Have somebody you can ask questions if you don't know something. We have a saying inside our coaching groups: ready, fire, aim. If you've got a seller and it sounds like a really good deal, write it up. Don't be afraid of the contract. Make sure you have a due diligence clause in there. Not a weasel clause. That's different. Allow yourself time for due diligence to verify the information the seller gave you. And then go to somebody that knows and get them to take a look at it and review it for you. If you wait, if you hesitate, somebody else is going to come along that knows stuff, and they're going to lock it up, and you're going to be out. So just take action today. Do something. Pick up the phone, call a seller, take action. That's really the key. And it's where so many people, they're just paralyzed. But go out there and do it. You'll buy a house.
Absolutely, man. Well, William, thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget, guys, if you would have more questions about how to do some of these sub-twos in your self-directed IRA, I did actually a whole YouTube video on it as well. But just let me know, let William know. We're both here to help you guys out. And don't forget about our QuestCon event right around the corner. If you're one of my current clients, I'll give you a free ticket to it. Otherwise, they're $50. And then check out William's site, all about the sub2deals.com. 2 is the number 2. So. Yep. Thanks, William.
All right. Thanks so much, Derek. Appreciate you.
Bye, guys.